Okay, let's move on to criminal and justice. Questions 4, please.
Thank you. This is a question from Robin Wick-Susan on the Edinburgh Access panel. They've asked, in view of the priority being given to active travel and public transport as a way of reducing the use of private cars to help achieve net zero, how are we going to protect equality of access for blue badge holders, from many of whom their private car is the only practical, accessible way of getting about? That's from Robin.
Thank you. I will start with Maggie on that one. You have 2 minutes, Maggie.
Thank you, and thanks for that question. I think there are a couple of things to say. Firstly, we have to protect the rights of access for blue badge holders, and one of the things the Scottish Greens want to do is make blue badge access free. So blue badges are currently more expensive in Scotland than elsewhere in the UK. That shouldn't be the case. They should be free. It shouldn't be, again, based on the ability to pay. If you need a blue badge, you should get a blue badge. But I think there's a deeper element to that question about active travel and public transport. We should also be arguing, as well as retaining access for blue badges and private cars, because yes, feasibly, that is going to be the only realistic option for some people, particularly those in rural and remote communities. But why isn't our public transport accessible? Why don't we design active travel routes that are accessible, that don't have the floating bus stop issues that we've already heard about this evening? There has to be the voices of disabled people absolutely integrated throughout how we design and how we implement the design of public transport. So Scottish Greens want to give local communities much more power and investment to design public transport services that suit them, so we can have community ownership of services that we know are much more responsive to local people's needs. Whether those local people have disabilities or not, we know that local is better for everybody in that kind of design. But we also want to make sure that beyond the sort of local and community ownership and design, that we are thinking of access and inclusion in all of our public transport elements. But just to come back to the point about blue badges, that shouldn't ever be a barrier to anybody, and we have to make sure that in our street design we retain the capacity for blue badge holders to move about freely, because yes, for many people that will remain their primary form of getting around, and cost should never be a barrier to it. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Maggie. Oliver?
Yeah, I think active travel should be an option for everyone, and sadly it isn't at the moment, and as Maggie has alluded to, some of that, there are people who, no matter what, they unfortunately will need to use their private cars, and it'll be a private car that they need to use. But there are too many people who are defaulting to the private car at the moment because we have not made it accessible enough. You only have to look at buses. I live in Edinburgh. We've got an incredibly good bus service compared to a lot of other parts of the country, so I'm already aware that I'm in a very privileged position as it is. But look at the people who use buses. It shouldn't be that you've got disabled people and people with pushchairs fighting it out over the one space on the bus. That makes no sense, because look at who is using public transport. So we're getting things wrong. And I think that goes back fundamentally to what we were talking about from the very start and have been talking about this evening, which is a failure to include the right voices in the planning process and in the creation of services. And I think the incredibly strong advocacy work the RNIB are doing around floating bus stops. Leith Walk is in the constituency I hope to represent, and is the one that they keep holding up as an example of where you can go very badly wrong sometimes if you don't include the right people in those discussions. And so I think we want to make sure that Blue Badge are available to those people who need them, and are available to those people who have no option but to do that. But alongside that, we need to make sure that people do have options, and they find themselves in a situation where they feel they have no choice but to use their private car, because active travel has all sorts of benefits for people and the communities, and we want to make sure that's available to everyone.
Okay, Karen?
Yeah, you actually absolutely have to have inclusive climate action because basically the disproportionate impact of climate change on disabled individuals. We actually had a debate on this at our party conference last autumn in Bournemouth. And we adopted some policy on this that basically said that we've got to have introduce schemes, for example, on active travel to support accessible, environmentally friendly transport options, things like tricycles and hand cycles. Making sure that all public transport and infrastructure companies make their provision completely accessible. And you're requiring the government to work with disabled people to mitigate any negative impact on them from reducing emissions and improving, just basically improving public transport and improving public spaces as well. It's from urban planning that kind of neglects disabled people's accessibility to the removing of parking spaces for cycle lanes. I mean, that's been a real issue for people who maybe need to park outside their own homes. So we just need to have that. The inequitable approach, if we don't do anything about it, it has ripple effects. It really hampers what we need to do to save the planet. And you've got over 10 million disabled individuals in the UK, and excluding them from active climate change engagement really kind of poses a significant obstacle to doing that. So it's just really important to get, again, always to get those voices heard right at the start.
Daniel, you've done a PhD research as a director Scotland on mental health.
Yeah.
How important is it for people with a disability to go out to help their mental health?
I mean, I think it's incredibly important. I mean, being able to go in the outdoors, being able to engage with people, being able to immerse yourself in your community is really, really important. And I always think back to actually when I worked in social care as a support worker, how important it was with the people I work with to engage in that local community, whether it be getting involved in local initiatives, whether it be starting some education, whether it be joining a local club. All of these things are absolutely vital to maintaining positive mental health. And I think there needs to be a lot more opportunities for disabled people to immerse themselves in their local communities.
Thank you. I'll open up to the floor for a few questions. Yep. Thanks.
How can people with disabilities get involved in our local communities when the things in the local communities are the first things to get cut? When there's any cuts, so everything gets shut down, that leaves us with nothing.
Karen?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I think we're really keen on, to support local community organisations. And in Edinburgh, we've been really active in getting money for the third sector, the brilliant third sector organisations who work in our communities to be able to continue their work. I think it really helps with people being supported and not being isolated. And it's really important that these decisions are kind of made at a local level, based on local need. And I think that's what we will continue to fight on, to ensure that everyone can be part of their community.
Yep. Thank you. Heather? Yep.
Thank you. This is a follow-up question to Robin's question. We've all alluded to the fact that climate change is incredibly important and that we all want to live in a safe world and a healthy world. And disabled people want to be part of the solution to that as well. We don't want to be seen as being the cause for things not being put right or preventative measures not being put in place. And, we don't want another crisis. We went into the pandemic much worse off than other people, and we have come out of it even worse off again. So many disabled people died during the pandemic, But to get back to the climate aspect and what Robin was asking, some of you talked about how we're losing blue badge parking spaces in towns and villages because of things like bus lanes, etc. But local authorities have a public sector equality duty. They are supposed to have impact assessed those decisions before they put these bus lanes, floating bus stops, whatever in, without consultation. They clearly did not do the impact assessments. And even if we had the capacity to ask for a review of that in the courts, a judge would only ever tell them to go back and do the impact assessment, and they would do the same non-entity of an impact assessment again. How are we supposed to use the law to stop things like this happening? How are we supposed to get local authorities and other decision makers to actually make these equality-based decisions and not just do what they were going to do anyway?
Okay, can I come to Oliver and then Daniel? Is that?
Yeah, because by the time that they are then held to account, it's too late and the decisions are already made. It feels too often like these are seen as zero-sum equations, and it's you have to lose something in order for someone else to get something, and it's not. It's absolutely not. And I know we've said it so many times tonight, but it's getting the right voices in the process. So I suppose I'm going to turn it this time to a plea to all of you to say, get involved in politics, consider running, stand for the council, run for parliament, do those things, because we need more people setting it from the start, and that's how we get around this. So this time it's not just a be in the room, it's run the room is my answer for that question.
Daniel?
No, absolutely, and I want to echo what you said, that I think it's vitally important that you get involved in the process. I get we need to come back to, removing those barriers to getting involved in the process, and going back to your question around the assessments that are made, we need to make sure that disabled people are in them discussions, actually informing that kind of process, which is really, really important. But absolutely, please get involved in the process because you're vital to making sure we succeed.
Maggie?
Yeah, thanks for that follow-up. Your point about the public sector equality duty is well made. The Equalities Committee recently did an inquiry on public sector equality duty, and it was staggering just how poorly informed and how unaware lots of public bodies were about their responsibilities under the equalities duties and what those meant, what the duties actually entailed, including things like the need for equalities impact assessments. I think one of the challenges, and I absolutely agree with the points about, make sure your voices are the voices that local authorities are hearing, that health boards are hearing, that people who are making these decisions, make sure you are the people making these decisions if you can. But I do think that there's work that we have to do, and the response to that inquiry was a set of recommendations for the Scottish Government, for local authorities, for health boards, for a whole range of public sector bodies to go away and do more. So I think one of the things I want to make sure happens in the next parliamentary term, I hope I'm there to wade in on this too, but whoever's there needs to make sure that people follow up on that, because they are really, really robust recommendations for local authorities to take forward. Some of it's about basic education and awareness raising of what PSED is, what those equality duties are. Some of it is about making sure local officers feel they are empowered to make the right decision and they aren't going to get landed on by a ton of bricks by a manager who doesn't understand what's going on. So it's about making sure we trust our workers to do what they know is right, and if they don't know what is right, making sure we educate and raise awareness to make sure they do.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got a question over here, please.
Hi, I'm Jenna. It's just about the Scottish concession bus passes and the fact that with the Edinburgh trams, you have to have the Edinburgh concession bus pass to be able to use it. Whereas I've got friends who are from Livingston and they can't use their bus pass on the trams. And I think everyone in Scotland should be able to use their bus pass or the trams, whether they're from Livingston, Edinburgh, or Glasgow, or anywhere else.
Karen?
As a resident of Livingston, I know and I understand where you're coming from. That's certainly something that needs to be looked into, because it's actually much easier for people to, it makes much more sense to use the trams rather than get on a bus sometimes. So that's definitely something that needs to be looked at, I think.
Oliver?
I didn't know that. And so I'm going to find out more.
I absolutely agree. It's something we've been pushing for. So Scottish Greens on Edinburgh Council have been pushing for this for a while, and we haven't got there yet, but we won't stop.
And I'm just currently making a note of that now, and it's something I will look at. Thanks.
Then, oh, sorry, yeah, down the front there.
I just want to disagree because I think, sorry, but I do use my tram on the buses and I use them on the trams as well. So people can use, people with a bus pass that can use the trams and use the buses. I don't have to pay for the bus or the tram in Edinburgh. So I think...
No.
Sorry? Because I got an Edinburgh bus pass, you see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I just want to get asked online because I know transport is a postcode lottery in different areas in terms of buses, taxis, cranes, boats and submarines and whatever else you can get. So is anyone else coming in online with the issues? I'm looking at the staff here. And, yeah, is anybody commenting in on the live chat about transport? If that's a bit of an issue? No. No. Okay. So, yep.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm proud of this country. I'm proud of how it treats people. I'm proud of the welfare state system. But the problem is, and I'm not judging, universal credit, not everyone likes it. And it's very difficult for people, it's very stressful. And yes, I do understand and accept that if people can work, they should work. But not everyone can work. And I think the system is, you can disagree, I'm not judging, it's a bit unfair. Thanks. I don't know what people think.
We'll take one more point from the floor, and then two more points, and then we'll move on to question 5. So I think you were first, sorry.
It's regarding the access, and that I know somebody that's used to get a blue badge, but they've made it a nightmare trying to get one now, and they've now got a floating bus stop in Duke Street that's never been used. They made it and then they've decided it's too awkward for the buses to actually stop at the bus stop. So that's a waste of money doing something like that, and then the person can't use it. And I know people that have got like sciatic and what have you, and they can't walk very far and they can't get a blue badge because they make it so awkward. And you're putting up bus stops to stop people from actually getting off the bus nearer where they're supposed to be. I mean, the bus stop's never been used.
Was it yourself? Yep.
Hi, my name's Susan. I just want to go back to employment. Have any of you looked at application forms for your local authority for your NHS? Have you looked at them recently? Front page is all about employing people with disabilities, neurodivergent, everything like that. Then you go to the job description, they want you to bend, they want you to reach up, they want you to carry sets of skills. Scottish Parliament want you to run. How do you get past that? And did I say I understand this disability confidence, or I didn't believe in it, and I'm being really honest with you. A guaranteed interview, if you meet the specification, is all right. It's not very nice to sit through if you ken that they didn't want you. Sorry, been there, done it. I feel we're in the room. I feel for 27 years I've sat in the room and we're still talking about the very same things.
Karen, can you be quick on this answer, and then we can go back to transport?
Yeah. I think that it's really, I think what you're saying is having gone through the same arguments for 27 years and not seeing a change, that needs to be a real feature of the next Scottish Parliament, that we really do see the change that you need, and that we make sure that those barriers that to employment are properly taken down, and that disabled people can get access to the jobs that they need. Because actually, as others have said, employers are losing out by not harnessing the best talents available.
I think we've got a question online, so that's...
Hi, yeah, it's from online and then it's related to transportation. So people are asking why many European and Asian countries have fully accessible transport and station while Scotland still faces major gaps. Thank you.
Oliver, yeah, because, I mean, what would you say to that, and that point as well, about, but also people getting diffused on buses? I mean, I had a friend, and I'm sure you, everybody in watching this as well, bus drivers refusing to take people in wheelchairs.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that, and I think if that is happening, again, it comes back to putting the onus on the disabled person to be fighting the fight here, and it's exhausting, isn't it? It's absolutely exhausting, and if you're going out worried that that is going to happen, you're not going to go out, and then you're not going to be involved in the community groups that we've been talking about and all the other things that your community offers, because you're worried about what's going to happen with the buses. And so that might be a time that you then resort to a private car, and that undermines all of the progress we're trying to make around active travel and the part that we all want to play in addressing the climate emergency. Transport is something that we are doing really badly, and I think regarding the question online, we could absolutely be learning a lot from other countries around the world, and we need to be open to those ideas and to be doing fact-finding and finding out what is working where and stealing it. If it's good, great, bring it here. Absolutely, we can learn from everyone. But Michael, earlier you called it a postcode lottery, transport in this country, and I think a lottery implies someone wins, and I'm not sure at the moment anyone is winning anywhere in the country. Yeah. It's whatever a lottery where it's just slightly less shit in some bits. I think that is that's the current situation we have. Yeah, it's something we absolutely have to do better at.
Karen?
Yeah, one of the things about buses is that one of my friends has sight loss, and she reckons on getting to work, maybe about 40% of the buses just drive past her. And that's just completely unacceptable. And I think there needs to be more enforcement of companies and drivers that do that, because we can all, if we are aware of that happening, report that service at that bus stop at that time to the company, because it is completely unacceptable. Disabled people need to be able to rely on the public transport options that are there. The other thing is that I think we would do, because we're very into decentralization in communities, is making sure that the buses, that communities and local authorities have more say in directing the bus services that they need, and making sure that they get the bus services that they need to serve them the way that they want to.
Okay, I'm afraid we've run out of time on that question, because everybody could speak about that question all night or all through the whole campaign.